The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Welcome, everybody. You are watching The Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. We're so glad that you joined us today. We're thrilled for this episode because we are diving into some relevant topics that allow us to grow into our new version of ourselves. Remember, if you're brand new, we are all about engaging conversation, elevating health and wellness, and empowering transformation. And there's no time like the present as we are rounding things out towards the end of the calendar year for us to set ourselves up for success, turning the page going into 2024. And with that, definitely want to talk about our next guest. I'm going to introduce to you our next guest. To have a little listen at this video. Lucy Byrd Hope is an author, alignment coach, and spiritual entrepreneur with expertise in various psychologies and holistic practices, including Reiki and Shamanic Mastery. She's released her new book, Daily Alignment: Tools to Balance Your Body, Mind, Spirit. Her entrepreneurial ventures, Lucid Lotus and Holism, reflect her passion for wellness and nutrition. Lucy's deep connection with nature and her transformative journey are at the core of her inspiring work. Introducing Lucy Byrd Hope to the show. Lucy, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's dive into it. Tell us a little bit about where you are in this journey, the space that you represent in helping others grow, and share with us a little of your backstory and how you got from there to here.
Yes, so as mentioned, I'm an author. My new book, Daily Alignment, is out, and I am an alignment coach as well. I see clients one on one and promote physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well being. And I also co own Holism, a healthy beverage company. And I'm thrilled to be where I am in my journey. It's interesting for me, though, that so much of my journey came from being in a really hard place and getting myself out of it. And what I'm doing now is really a result of all of that.
So, talk to us a little bit about how you got to this point. So, we all have storms as we go through life, of course. What were some points where the trajectory, where in hindsight, you looked at your journey and thought, you know what, I need to include more in growing myself, and that this could lead to really good things for the future?
Yeah, so I went through a period of life where I really lost my identity. I lost my job. I lost a business I had helped start. I lost the relationship I was in. There was a death in my family. There were all sorts of loss going on. And as painful as that was, what it did was strip away who I thought I was and left me with who I really wanted to be. I was given a blank slate to really choose that. And the pain that I was in during that process, the anxiety, the depression that came up as a result of that loss of identity really motivated and propelled me to search new techniques and new alternative medicines and new ways of feeling better that helped me. And then I've implemented those and shared them with the world.
Now, you mentioned you and I spoke before that you went to UT Austin. Did you study this when you were in college, or was this something, or was this a moment in which you had a shift after college?
Hmm. So in college, I did major in psychology. So I've always been fascinated in that mind body connection and what we do and why we do what we do and what propels us to do that. So I'd always been interested in delving into the mind and all that is there. I hadn't specifically looked at alternative medicine. And so I am appreciative for what I went through because it opened my eyes. It really forced me to look at new things. My book really came very organically for me. I was in that painful place, and every day I would just wake up feeling so bad. I would have those automatic negative thoughts, that those spiraling, just awful feelings and awful thoughts. And then during the day, I would find different ways to feel better, whether it's from a friend or a therapist or a book I was reading. And by the end of the day, I'd be doing all right. But the next morning, I'd wake up just feeling awful again. And I decided to circumvent that by writing the things that I learned down on a piece of paper. And the moment I woke up in the morning, I read from those ideas that I knew served me. And that paper became pages on pages, and I self bound it into a book for myself. And I was encouraged to publish it. And that's where daily alignment came from. So that's just one of the places where this energy got in and came out to serve me and others in the end.
So we're definitely going to get into the book. I'd love to circle back around and hear a little bit more of that street cred that brings you to the table, where you found that you were forging your way through, and you were growing into embracing this being the journey that you're that you're creating for yourself. Did you find that back then that these were free topics to talk about, in terms of, that there was this support to be free about your expressions? Or did you feel like it was still a struggle to be open and honest with where you were?
I'd say being open and honest definitely was a struggle. I think for me at first it was hard because I didn't know what was going on. It was chaotic to lose my identity. And it was just pain everywhere I looked. I felt awful. Physically, I was sick. Mentally, my thoughts were just so spiraling. Emotionally, I didn't know how to give myself love or really take care of myself. And spiritually, I didn't feel like I was connected to anything bigger. I didn't understand why what was happening to me was happening to me. And that made me question everything in my life. So it was a really dark place. So I'd say the first step was me being open and honest with myself. And that wasn't an easy journey. I fought myself every step of the way. I fought leaving my old past behind. I really didn't see that as the process at first. So it was really through trial and error that I started learning, okay, this is where I am. And then I did start sharing it with others. I have a really supportive family, which has been great, and supportive friends. But there have been some people that haven't understood, and that's okay. That's part of the journey, part of my journey, and something I write about and speak about is being authentically yourself. And that's what losing my identity enabled me to do. It stripped me of anything I had ever learned, and I was forced or liberated and able to replace those ideas with my own and the ones that were serving me right at that moment.
Were you encouraged to do this by anyone who maybe was a mentor of yours, or was this something that you came to your decision when your first breakthrough, that this was a step that you needed to take?
Yeah, a mix of both. I have had wonderful mentors that have helped me. My first step was navigating that darkness and accidentally really finding mentors and people that encouraged me. I went to get a massage to help with the physical pain, and the masseuse recommended Reiki with what I was going through. Reiki is a Japanese healing art, and I'd never heard of it. But because of the pain and that make forcing me to accept new things, I said, yes, whatever you recommend, give it to me. And after that session, I felt so much better. It was an incredibly visceral reaction and response that I had to the Reiki. I loved it so much that I decided to get certified. And a couple of certifications in, my Reiki teacher asked me if I might want to start my own practice. And now for 3 years, I've had the Lucid Lotus, my energy healing practice. So there were definitely these mentors along the way. The first step, though, was really fumbling through that pain and being led, I believe, with the help of my higher power and the universe, to the people that did become my mentors, that did encourage me to take the next big step.
Now, there might be some viewers who are watching that don't understand Reiki. Can you explain what Reiki is so that they know?
Definitely, definitely. So Reiki, as I mentioned, is a Japanese healing art, and Reiki can be broken down into two words. Rei, which means spiritually conscious, and Ki, which means life force. So Reiki is its own spiritually conscious life force. And as a Reiki practitioner, I've been attuned to the frequencies and vibrations of Reiki, that spiritually conscious life force, so that I can channel it and bring it into the client, channel it into the person that I want to receive the energy healing. And then Reiki itself goes into that person's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. And it's such a high vibrational energy that it causes the lower vibrations, which result in those like negative feelings and negative physical manifestations. They're forced to fall apart and break away as the high vibrational Reiki is flowing through your body. And then when that high vibrational Reiki is in your body, your tissues and your organs and your cells benefit from that higher vibration and that flow of Ki.
So when you had your first Reiki session, did you automatically recognize these changes that that this was the observation that you had? Was it over a course of several sessions? What did you observe?
Yes, that's a great question. So initially, so Reiki can be done different ways, but the way that that practitioner did for me was to guide me in a Reiki meditation to start. So she had me visualize Reiki energy coming in and being in a forest and a beach type setting. So initially there was that mental relief and that visual relief. And then I could feel it literally flowing through the pathways of my body. And I could feel just things like, imagine if your whole body's clenched and all of a sudden it releases. Things
Mm.
like that. They were so visceral. And then at the time, I had really intense gut issues. I had developed as a result of the mental pain, became emotional pain, manifested into physical pain. And so my stomach was a really, really tender spot for me. And I didn't mention this to the practitioner, but when she got around my stomach, she just stopped a few feet out and she was like, your whole energy is blocked. And it really touched me. She started crying because she could feel how much pain I had. And she ended up staying at least 2 hours over how long the session was supposed to be, and just really went through my whole body, releasing those heavy emotions, releasing that heavy energy. So I did feel it on all realms. And I remember being so touched as well how she spent that time with me. And when it was over, I had released so much energy that I could not sit up for about 30 minutes. And she sat with me and held my hand during that time. I'll never forget that.
That was pretty powerful. Did you expect for it to be of that magnitude? Did she say that it might get that way, or was it just a surprise in real time?
It really was a surprise in real time. I will say that I imagine I had been seeking and wanting healing so much. I feel like maybe my desire was out there and got met in that way, but I didn't really consciously think anything was going to happen. I was really just showing up for a massage and then just pivoted and blended with what she recommended. And then before I knew it, everything was changing for me.
So then afterwards, where did your journey take you after that Reiki session? What was the next pivotal moment for you?
Yes. So I met at a Mind Body Spirit Expo, something else that I was motivated to go to for the first time because I didn't want to sit alone in my pain. So thanks to the pain, I went out and met people at this Mind Body Spirit Expo, and I met a Reiki practitioner. And I didn't really have time to connect with her. She was on her way to speak, and I was on my way to an event, but I grabbed her card. And a couple weeks later, I had been thinking about the Reiki and really, really wanting to do it. And her card fell out on the ground. And I contacted her and I took my first level Reiki with her. I've taken my second level. I've taken my master. I've taken Holy Fire. I've taken Karuna. I've taken Crystal Reiki. She has just become such an incredible mentor and really propelled me on this journey. And in each of those levels, she asked me, would you like to start a practice? In my first level, she said, there's a part in the teaching in the section where I can teach you how to start your own practice if you want to. And I said, oh, no, 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 no. I got to my second level, maybe 6 months later. She asked me the same question. I said, no, 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 no. And I got to my third level about a year later. And she said, Lucy, I really think I should teach you this section so that maybe you can open your own practice. And she did. And I did open my own practice.
Oh, wow. So obviously she's one of your mentors. Did you envision where this was going? And I'm assuming that clearly the journey's not over. Is this something that you could envision yourself doing, or did you have the notion of let the chips fall where they may and let's see what happens next?
That's a great question and one of my favorite phrases. And yes, it was a bit like that. I had been just praying and asking for my next entrepreneurial venture. I had left my first entrepreneurial venture. That was part of the pain that I was going through. So I had been asking for that guidance and to be sent that. And then going along and taking these Reiki classes and not putting the two and two together until it got to that point where my teacher said, Lucy, I really think you should open your practice. And I did feel it almost like, oh, I've been asking for this and it's been in front of me my whole time. Let me just put it together. So it was a little bit of a mix of, I was hoping the chips would fall where they would in some area of my life, and I hadn't realized it would be this area. And then it did.
How popular is Reiki today? Where's the trend going in the United States and beyond? Where do you see it going today?
Yeah, great question. It's growing all the time. I mean, it's used in over 800 hospitals in the US alone because of the scientific studies that have shown its benefits after surgery and helping with nausea and helping recovery time and sorts of things like that. I'm thrilled to see more and more Reiki practitioners all the time. I'm part of Reiki circles where groups of Reiki practitioners and I get together and heal each other and heal others that ask to come forth and that sort of thing. And so it's a great to see it growing. I do see it as I feel like people are getting more into taking care of themselves, and Reiki is a great way to do that.
Is there a group that you wish you could see tap into the Reiki practice more that maybe is underserved with this emerging and we're learning about this more and more?
Yes, I feel like anyone who is in that sort of fast pace, that doing pace, which is a lot of the world today and very common. So anyone who is working a lot, I mean, dare I say, I would love to see politicians using Reiki, and I definitely send them Reiki. It's just adding that sense of stability and calmness and broad perspective and bringing in that well-being so there's a more grounded center that you're then producing from.
Wow. So, and I would say that, that we probably know of several politicians who could benefit from that, of course. No names mentioned. Where do you see this going in terms of what group has not tapped into this at all?
Mm. I will say what I would love to see and I dream of seeing is a bridge between the spiritual aspect of Reiki and the religious aspect of different religions. So just recognizing that Reiki is love, just like religions have a foundation of love, and stripping away some of those things where we get caught up in what's different and just looking at what's uniting the things behind these energies.
And it feels so new for us to learn about this. What is the one wish that you have about what Reiki can do that we've not talked about yet? Where is the one avenue you want to see this go?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I would really, although I guess I mentioned it, I really want to bring it into more health centers. So I mentioned like it's been in hospitals, but I want to bridge that gap as well between doctors and Reiki or hospitals and Reiki, just getting more and more of bridging that gap of it's all healing and it's all well-being and they can support each other. So I would love to see medical establishments using more Reiki, like combining the technologies and the sciences.
Yes, yes, good point. We're going to take a commercial break. We will be right back after this. We're back here on the Health Revolution. My guest today is Lucy Byrd Hope. She's an author. She is an alignment coach, and also she's a spiritual entrepreneur. And speaking of author, we've been talking about Reiki and how impactful that practice is for all of us to look into benefit. I'd like to segue into the role of author and the fact that you've written your book. And so I wanna bring the slide on up and talk about your book. Tell us a little bit about it and how did you get the idea? You touched on it, but let's do a deeper dive and what can it do for readers?
Yeah, so it's basically a compilation of different tools that help balance your mind, your body, and your spirit. It's a bunch of different ways to feel better and to feel good. So it's written in a very digestible format because of what I was going through at the time. So as I mentioned, I was in that really painful place and I started keeping track of the tools and little tiny tips that helped me feel good. And that became a book. And so I wrote it in a way that I could digest it at the time when I was in that sort of chaotic place and I couldn't focus enough to absorb a traditional narrative or an entire book. So it's very bite sized. Every tool is just about a page long and it's the bullet points of the tools so that you can even open it to a random page and see what calls to you that day. You can read it backwards. You can read it forwards. If you just need stuff to help you out with your body, you can focus on that section. If you're spiraling mentally, you can go to that section. If you want to bring in self-love, you can go to that section. There are lots of activities that you can do in times of crises or to help you feel better or align. And then there are different ways to connect with your spirit and that greater power.
I do have my copy right here, just letting viewers know. And you said you can turn to any page. And I wanted to, and as I did so, I turned to page 137. I wanted to just read for a smidget of a moment, monitor your energetic vibrations. And so you talked about here, you are an energetic being made up of trillions of vibrating atoms. Channel the energy you wish to align with, such as when you want to feel better, accomplish your goals, and be kind to others. You also go on to say, unlimited energies are available to you, including feminine energy, masculine energy, child energy, creative energy, solution energy, earth energy, wind energy, fire energy, water energy, magical energy, angel energy, divine energy, and unification conscious energy. I thought that was very intriguing. Can you talk a little bit about this excerpt that I just read?
Yes, definitely. So I love this concept because we are all made up of trillions of atoms and they are all vibrating, they're all moving. And the entire world is made up of trillions of vibrating atoms. This table is, you are, this computer is, and this has been shown scientifically. And also, this is a spiritual concept. It's an Abraham Hicks concept, who is a wonderful spiritual teacher, that basically when you start monitoring your energetic vibrations and vibrating at a certain frequency that you're aware of and that you're aligning with and attuning to, you are coming in contact with other vibrating creatures and vibrating situations. And when you align your vibrations in such a way, for example, say you're flowing creative energy, you are more likely to come in contact with vibrations that align with that energy. So it's basically a way of directing your energy so that you have more control over your life. And of course, we don't have control over what happens to us, but we have control over how we respond to it and how we prepare for it. So you can get out ahead of things by setting your vibrations, by aligning them in the morning before you do anything. Before you take a drive, you can align your vibrations for the drive to be safe and fun. Before you go on a meeting, you can align your vibrations to be productive and successful. You can align your energy and your vibrations any way that you want, and you can continually realign yourself throughout your day and when anything triggers you. It's basically tapping into your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies and aligning them with the highest vibrations that serve you in that moment or that day.
So I'm getting that collectively, this is the totality of the entire alignment process. Is it easy or hard to distinguish where the energies are coming from? Like, say, for example, so the creative energy versus divine energy. Is there a way to distinguish where it's coming from, or maybe one area that's more of a concentrated amount that adds to the whole picture? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there are different energies, and I've just really found that trial and error and experience is the best way to get to know what energies work best for you, or that you want to bring in. So it's really just keeping a playful attitude about it and seeing what it feels like when you visualize and meditate on and sense creative energy, as opposed to when you visualize and meditate on and sense divine energy. And you can just let that energy flow through you and sit with it and see what it feels like. And you can even bring in your senses. What does it feel like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? And you can just bring in and get to know and experience the energies. And then that really will tell you what they feel like. Experience is one of the best teachers with energies.
So, what would you tell the person who has been stationary, that has not moved hardly any, that maybe they've been a place they are in a place of reservation, that they're just kind of withdrawn? How do they start with putting attention and then harnessing that energy so that it can forward this growth, this movement for them?
Yeah, so a great way to start with things is to just, it's like a step before the step where you just nurture the relationship with whatever it is you want to bring into your life. So, say you want to bring in movement, as you mentioned in this situation, or say from the book you want to bring in overall well being, whatever it is, you can just say something like, I have a positive relationship with movement, or I have a positive relationship with well being. Or if that's too much, I am willing to be open to movement. Or if that's too much, I am trying to be willing to be open to movement. It's really just initially, it's about cultivating that energy and tending to it before you take any big steps. It's just nurturing the relationship you have with whatever energy it is that you want to bring in.
I like how you phrase that, because oftentimes it's many people struggle with the notion of they understand where we understand where we need to be, and oftentimes we get lost in the sauce of what's my first step, how do I begin this process, how do I, where can I productively take that step so it's going to lead me forward and not flounder. So I love how you phrase that. I love how you know, if not this, then scale it back to then just do that. And so, what are some of your favorite first practices of the absolute very first step if you've been completely stationary?
My favorite things to start with are grounding techniques. So, getting into your body and your body's parasympathetic nervous system. That's that restful place where you feel calm and peaceful and you're really channeling your best self. So, really easy ways to get into that are to focus on your breathing. So, take deep, intentional breaths. And my favorite breath technique is called box breathing. This is breathing in for a certain count, holding for a certain count, breathing out for a certain count, and holding for a certain count in a way that makes a box. So, for example, breathing in for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, breathing out for 4 counts, and holding for 4 counts. It's actually been shown to neutralize your electromagnetic sphere around you. It's a really powerful breath. And so you can just do a couple rounds of that to start tapping into your parasympathetic nervous system. And then add grounding by checking in with your senses. This is a somatic experience that gets you into your body, which automatically gets you out of your mind. So you can just simply label anything in your environment that you can see, that you can smell, that you can taste, that you can touch, and that you can hear. Hearing is actually our fastest sense, and evolutionarily, that helped our ancestors be readily alerted of approaching danger. And now we can use it as a hack, as the quickest sense to get into when we want to get out of our mind and into our body. Listening is a really fun skill to develop. You can start hearing birds chirping, or the hum of an AC unit, or your breath, or maybe you hear my voice right now. But without tapping into hearing, you might not have really been hearing it. So it's a great way to focus on what's going on right now and ground you in the present moment.
You know, it's ironic that you point out that listening is a fun skill, but in all honesty, as humans, and what we tend to do typically in society, in societal movement, listening is often a challenge for many people. So how would you say we turn that around if we know for a fact that we have a hard time listening?
Yes. Okay. Well, I'll bring it back to what we just did, right? I have a positive relationship with listening, or I have a positive relationship with being willing to listen, or I am open to listening. And I definitely agree with you on that. For me, when I started tapping into listening, I didn't hear much. And that's why I have been excited to see what happens if you just keep tapping into that. It will develop just like any other skill in your life. So it's really neat to start hearing more and more subtle sounds. It's a neat practice to play with.
So kind of outlasting the temporary. So if we don't have that connection, then just hang in there then. And then eventually we're going to make progress for that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And if you prefer one of the other senses, go with that. It's whatever resonates with you, of course. You never want it to be something you're forcing yourself to do, but it is a neat hack to have available.
And that's why I like the idea of it being much more individualized approach. I think sometimes when we're learning of how to develop ourselves and grow, sometimes we hear statements or generalized approaches of like, this is the one thing that we have to do, or this is what will work over everything, or the one thing you should do. But I love how you talk about that if it's not just listening, then it's just, here's another way to be still and be in the present. So it just depends on what you gravitate towards.
Exactly. And that's how 85 or more skills came into my book, because I was learning them myself. And then I would need a new one. And then I would need a new one. And I would need something else. And I would need something more. And I just kept grabbing them and grabbing them. So I totally understand and resonate if you need something else or something different.
I want to test your theory of, you can turn to any old page, not old, but you can turn to any page and it lands into the alignment. So I've turned it to page 74, and I'm reading down here where it says self-compassion consists of self-kindness, showing yourself the same kindness that you would show a best friend, mindfulness, being in the present moment instead of pondering what you could have or should have done, and common humanity, acknowledging that we're all in this together. We all struggle, we all hurt, we all mess up because we're all human. Your inner ally allows you to amplify the love that you feel towards yourself, which allows you to amplify the love that you feel toward the whole world. Talk a little bit about what that means, what I just read.
Yes, so self-compassion is such a huge aspect. Being kind and gentle to ourselves is really, it's huge. It's the way to freedom. And we're the only ones that can gift us that gift. It's amazing to see when you start tapping into that inner ally, as I mentioned in the book, instead of that inner enemy or that inner critic. So maybe you hear harsh judgments or criticism in your mind. And in those moments, you can pause and think, okay, inner critic, I hear you. Now, what do you have to say about this inner ally? What is a more gentle, more loving, more nurturing, a broader perspective, less perfectionist way of viewing this situation? Sometimes we're so hard on ourselves. I mean, usually we're our own worst or biggest critic, I'll say. So tapping into that sense of love for yourself can just open up so many doors for you. It's about treating yourself like you're your own best friend or your own child or your own romantic partner. What would you say to someone like that in the midst of a situation? If you can pull back and see yourself through that lens, you can generally talk a lot kinder to yourself. And when you're kinder to yourself, you're usually more motivated to take the steps you need to resolve the situation or keep working through the problem. It's really defeating when we bring in that inner enemy or that inner critic. But unfortunately, it's what so many of us have learned. So it's a good thing to shed or to kind of keep in check is that inner critic and really embrace that inner ally and envision talking to yourself as if you are just someone who adores yourself and telling yourself you love you. Even looking in the mirror and saying, I love you is a really big practice.
It's a big practice, and it's challenge for so many people. And it wasn't until this moment, until you brought this up, I've never heard the term inner ally. I've heard, and oftentimes I've heard inner critic. So I'm used to the term inner critic where, obviously we can conceptualize what that is, but inner ally is a new one. How do we nurture that inner ally? How do we reach out to our inner allies so that we stake the claim of connection?
So anytime you can bring in kind self-talk. So anything that you can do that is positive or reinforces what you have done, what you have accomplished, how wonderful you really are. Enabling things like the universe loves me and the universe adores me. And it's really so much about self-talk. One practice that I like to do for this is bringing in the concept of feeding your good wolf. So there is a very old Native American legend of a Cherokee grandson who was talking to his grandfather. And he asked his grandfather to tell him the ways of life. And his grandfather said, my son, there's a fight going on inside all of us. And it is between two wolves. And one is evil. It is guilt and shame and regret and anger and envy and all of those types of energies. And one is good. It is love and it's faith and it's trust and it's empathy and it's compassion and belief. And the grandson looks at his grandfather and says, well, which one will win? And the grandfather simply says, the one you feed. So it's really about recognizing that your self-talk is feeding you, and it really matters what type of food you use.
That's pretty powerful. I like that, and I appreciate you sharing that. That's pretty incredible. We're going to go ahead and take a commercial break. We will be right back after this.
is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been showing that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
We're back here on the Health Revolution, and no matter which way that you've made your way to us, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So you want to go ahead and click on that. We'd love to stay connected with you. Don't forget also that as we are going through our episode, we've got show notes at the bottom of the screen. So you're going to want to tap into those. So make sure that you bringing that to your attention as we continue onward. And we're going to have a quick note from our sponsor, Biomed IV. We want to go ahead and bring them to light. Check this out. We've been spending some quality time with our guest today, Lucy Byrd Hope, author, alignment coach, and spiritual entrepreneur. We've been pulling some excerpts from her book, Daily Alignment Tools to Balance Your Body, Mind, and Spirit. Where can viewers tap into your book? Where can they get your book?
Yes, so you can get it on my website, which is lucybirdhope.com, bird with a Y, and you can get it on Amazon and other major retailers.
Fantastic. Now, of course, as you are paving your way and you are becoming a name in this area of field, what are you noticing with say how women are continuing to lean forward and just in societal ways? How are we continuing to grow? And what are some ways that you serve around you, whether it's in person and then also in the virtual space?
I have loved seeing the growth of women and so many people in communities. I feel like there is this drive for well-being. I feel like people are becoming more, especially women, are becoming more in tune with when they are not feeling good and wanting to feel better. I feel like there's more of a desire and an outreach to feel better. And I feel like that's such a wonderful step to be going on worldwide. And I'm happy to be a part of providing some options for well-being when people come to me or when I'm out in the world. I enjoy working with clients one-on-one, and I'm starting my group coaching. And I love promoting that physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And I love being in my community. I do some volunteering, and I love working with fellow Reiki practitioners out in the world as well.
What's the feedback that you're getting for those who are just now learning all that you do?
Ooh, what a great question. I think it's an interesting time because there's this new version of me that is launching into the world. And then there's also that old version of me that people knew. So I think it's been interesting and hopefully fun for the people that have known me for a while to merge these two aspects of me.
That's fantastic. And talk a little bit about your coaching that you have. We're going to bring up a brief slide that details a little bit about what this means. Talk to us about the coaching that you've got going on.
Yes. So I'm excited to be launching my 5-week group coaching that is based off of the book. So each week we'll go through 3 techniques from that section of the book and 1 activity, starting with the body, going into the mind, tapping into self-care, connecting you to something bigger and your spirit. And then every week, introducing different activities that you can do throughout the week. So I also give everyone a copy of my book and a free one-on-one Reiki session. And my one-on-one sessions I love doing those. I've been doing those for a couple of years, and I'll see clients, and basically what that looks like is we talk about what they're going through mentally and physically and emotionally, and I'll create different guided meditations based off of what they're going through. So we'll start the practice and I'll guide them in breathing and sensory exercises to relax. And then based on what they shared with me, I'll guide them in different meditations that include emotional releases and energetic cord cutting, releasing of the past, releasing of the future, inner child healing, and self-forgiveness. And then I'll proceed with channeling Reiki. And then after the Reiki is complete, I will do some sound therapy to incorporate those high vibrations, and then bring the client back and discuss what we both experienced.
Now, this is part of the group coaching. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then this is virtual. This is anywhere that anybody has Wi-Fi.
Exactly. Right? That's the beauty of technology, right? That we can do these virtual things.
Absolutely. So who's this for in particular?
Anyone who's dealing with overwhelm, anyone who's dealing with stress, anxiety, depression, feeling like they've just got too much going on and they don't know how to center or be their best self. Anyone who feels like they're stuck in that fight or flight mode where they're always on go, go, go. And anyone who just wants to feel better or really incorporate well-being and have different foundational tools and habits to help them do so.
How are you continuing to transform as someone who is leading in this space? What is helping you to transform, and what do you notice about yourself as you are putting one foot in front of the other?
Well, I love having my book as a foundation. I really do read it almost every day. And every morning when I get up, I start my day with a round of box breathing, tapping into my sense of hearing, some of the things we talked about today. And I do them all throughout the day. I also can't get enough of the knowledge. I'm always taking a new Reiki class. I'm always taking a new spiritual class. I'm always interested in more and more and more as far as developing my skills and what I can bring to the world. I also have a podcast that I do every week, the Live Holism podcast, where my co-partner and I talk about how we're staying whole physically, mentally, and emotionally that week, and anything we're going through and how we overcame it. So many different ways. I love reading any new literature that I can get my hands on. I feel like it's just a continual journey. I'll always be learning more in this field and then sharing it with anyone who wants it.
So you wear many hats that integrate all together. Can you talk about your 2 ventures that are also part of the landscape?
Yes. So I'm thrilled to co-own Holism with my business partner, Ryan Givens. It is basically a healthy beverage company. And it's interesting because that one arose out of that painful time I was going through. I had those gut issues that I mentioned, and I went on certain detoxifications with a functional medicine practitioner in order to heal myself. And so for a while, I wasn't eating dairy, gluten, sugar, other inflammatory foods. And my friend Ryan brought me this almond milk that he had made. And he said, I know you're going through a hard time. And so I just wanted you to know that a friend made you something and is thinking of you, and you can actually eat it. So I took one sip and I said, you have to start a company out of this. This is healthy and it tastes good. And that is just such a special thing. And so a couple months later, he approached me and we have started that company together. And we really highlight the different nutritional properties of the foods that we're using. And we're dedicated to promoting nutritional awareness amongst our consumers as well, telling them what they're eating and why, so that they can then further use those tools in their life.
And that can't be overstated for sure. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We will be right back after this.
Hi there, I'm Dan Hafner. I'm the host of the show Tech Bites with Dan Hafner. Join me live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Achieve TV network for the latest technology and business news and advice. Join me right here on E360 TV.
We're back here on the Health Revolution, spending some quality time with Lucy Byrd Hope, author. She is an alignment coach, and she's also a spiritual entrepreneur. We're going to go ahead and bring back your website. Talk a little bit about some of the components that you offer in viewers and those wanting to get to know you. What can they expect by tapping on your website?
So immediately when you tap into my website, you will be gifted a free meditation. So it's a 20-minute alignment experience. And it's basically me guiding you in different meditations involving breath work and sensory experiences and a guided body scan. And it's paired to a really pretty visual experience as well, if you're more of a visual person. And there is also a freebie as well for 10 ways to align under the freebies section on my website, which is just really quick and easy ways to align yourself immediately. There are also lots of podcasts that I have been on and summits I've been a part of and speaking engagements that I've done. Those are all on my website, as well as my book and my new audiobook just released. So if you are more wanting to develop that sense of listening, then you can check out the audiobook.
Now, do you have a way for viewers to subscribe? Do you have a subscription feature on your website?
Yes, so I have a newsletter that goes out that you can subscribe to, and I will send you little tips on how to align and stay well and be your best self.
And where on social media are you? Which platforms are you on?
So I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Lucy Byrd Hope, Bird with a Y.
Okay. And one more thing I wanted to read. Of course, we've been doing this throughout the hour of taking excerpts from her book. And I have flipped the page and back onto page 132. And it says here, which I read super briefly, and I love what this says: enjoy the dance of life, gracefully moving from one moment to another, one relationship to another, one career to another, or one home to another. All the while, honor the time that you spend alone, as the relationship that you have with yourself and the relationship that you have with your higher power are the only relationships that you will have indefinitely. Any words to add to what I just read?
Oh, I love that you read one. I love that idea of, I like to visualize it. I like to visualize myself really dancing with all those things and seeing how graceful I can be about releasing something like a dance partner, whether it is, as mentioned, a career or a home or a relationship, just gracefully letting go, honoring your time dancing alone, and then gracefully taking in that next partner. It's a great way to just view life.
That's fantastic. The book is called Daily Alignment: Tools to Balance Your Mind, Body, and Spirit. The author, Lucy Byrd Hope, our guest today, author, alignment coach, and spiritual entrepreneur. Lucy, we are out of time. I am so appreciative of you spending some time with us and sharing your gifts and your gems and knowledge. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And for viewers who are tuning in, remember, you can always reach out to us. Our website is thehealthrevolutiontv.com, where you can also subscribe to our newsletter. You can share feedback as to the type of topics you would like to see and the type of guests that you would love to have cover that. In addition to that, we are on Tuesdays and Thursdays, as a reminder, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Achieve TV channel on E360 TV. And until next time, we are out of time. Until next time, we will see you soon. Take care.